The intergalactic confluence of 92 opened with the weight of 1,000 expectations and the polished silence of looming catastrophe. Over 6 dozen species filled the vast atrium of the Aldir Spire, their emissaries shimmering in ceremonial garb, plated in crystallized enzymes, woven plasma silks, or bioluminescent threads. Protocol demanded elegance, discretion, formality. Then Emma walked in. The click of her boots echoed across the polished obsidian floor. Her dress was compliant, no armor, as stated. But what she wore was worse. Slivers of serrated jawbone framed her shoulders, rib struts looped over her collarbones like lace, and a vertebrae chain belt rattled faintly with each step. The central piece, a fossilized cranium with 3 ocular sockets, crowned her back like a cloak brooch. Each fragment had once belonged to a predator that had tried and failed to kill her, or someone under her command. The room didn't gasp. Too many lacked lungs. But the emotional equivalent vibrated through the atmospheric dampeners. The Krell Warrocks flared their gill vents in interest. The Trautai recoiled, their mucus films recoagulating. The Zeltun representatives immediately filed a decorum infraction. Somewhere behind Emma, her assistant Leo muttered, "Well, subtlety's off the table." Emma stopped at her assigned podium and adjusted a metacarpal clasp at her shoulder. "The dress code said no armor," she said, projecting her voice with calm evenness. "Bones aren't armor, they're history." A dozen translator nodes hummed. "This is disrespectful," hissed Delegate Oros of the Kelverat, whose people viewed skeletal remains as sacred and unmovable. "This is war art," growled Wararch Surav of the Krell, stepping forward with a bone-thudding gait. "And she did not purchase it, she earned it." From his expression, he seemed almost delighted. That was worrying. The confluence moderator, a cylindrical entity suspended in liquid hover gel, attempted to regain order with a bell chime. "Ambassador Emma, you are reminded that cultural provocation violates subsection 3 of the diplomatic charter." Emma bowed her head slightly. "Understood. My intent was not provocation, only remembrance." She didn't add that some bones still retained partial genetic signatures she needed, nor that her dress doubled as a mobile biosensor array. She took her seat. The Wararch hadn't stopped watching her. Later, in the Earth delegation's private suite, smaller than usual this year, Leo leaned against the edge of the table while Emma cataloged readings from a femur-shaped pendant. "Still no leads on survey teams Theta, Nova, or Bastion?" Leo asked. She shook her head, then paused as the scanner pulsed orange. "This one's new. I wore this piece through 3 missions and never got a hit. Is it contaminated?" "No," she said, voice tightening. "It just found something. A signal from an extinct species, or supposed to be extinct. Look." She turned the display to him. "That's a genetic sequence spike, and that's not natural. It's spliced." Leo stared at the screen, his brow knitting. "Someone brought them back?" Emma nodded. "And used them to hunt survey teams. Every confirmed kill I've had in the last 6 months came after one of our people vanished. We just didn't see the pattern. We didn't want to." The spike on the screen pulsed again, irregular now. Emma's jaw clenched. "This sequence, there's something synthetic embedded in it, not just a signal. It's reacting to the summit's proximity network." Leo stood upright. "You're saying the bones are transmitting?" She exhaled slowly. "Not yet. But they could be. Some of these fragments were tampered with before I recovered them. This one, the skullcap, shows signs of synthetic lattice work. Someone wanted it found." The implications hung heavy in the room. Before they could dig further, a soft chime announced a priority meeting request from Lumivox. "Of course it is," Emma muttered. The Lumivox, plasma-bodied, unanchored by shape or volume, was more concept than creature. No one had ever seen it twice in the same form. Its requests were rarely casual. "Time to smile for the spectral diplomat," Leo muttered. Emma changed into a simpler tunic, still bones but less confrontational, then entered the containment field that housed the Lumivox's vaporous form. It coalesced into a silhouette of vague humanoid shape. "Emma of Earth," it said without preamble. "The Council knows. About the predators. About your teams. They sealed the data." She stood still. Why? Fear. Panic. Loss of credibility. They would rather a few disappear than admit control was lost. Emma felt her jaw tighten. Control over what? The Lumavox drifted closer, flickering. Control over extinction. Some of the species you encountered were not just reborn, they were repurposed. Your bones carry remnants of that experiment. Surveillance lattices, behavioral imprint chips. You wear a network you do not understand. I thought I was hunting them. You were bait. She felt cold. Not metaphorically. The containment field temperature dropped. And the signals? They are activating. Your presence here is the trigger. She stepped back. You could have told me sooner. I am telling you before the Krell do. They suspect. And the War Arch will not let you leave without a challenge. Outside, alarms began to sound. Delegate chambers sealed as emergency lockdown protocols activated, a voice crackled through the suite intercom. System-wide anomaly detected. All personnel prepare for cybernetic intrusion. Possible bio-integration vector present. Leo's voice rang out from the suite. "Emma, it's coming from the bones." Emma turned toward the field exit. "Let me go." The Lumavox shimmered. "If you leave now, they'll think you are the cause. Then help me prove I'm not. You will have to fight." She nodded once. "Then I fight." The Lumivox paused. "One of your trophies, the three-eyed skull. It did not belong to a predator." Emma froze. It was a scout. Sapient. It attacked out of fear. The admission was a knife. She'd worn it like a medal. Emma clenched her fists. "Then I have more than one thing to answer for." The ceremonial arena wasn't designed for combat, at least not by human standards. Located in the center of the Confluence's diplomatic gardens, it resembled a crystalline terrarium. Semi-transparent walls, high oxygenation, and an artificial gravity field tuned for multi-species compatibility. Emma stood at its edge, adjusting the bone-threaded straps of her tunic. Sweat prickled her spine, and not from exertion. There was too much to process. The surveillance lattice embedded in her trophies, the disappearance of the survey teams, the Lumavox's revelation about a misclassified skull. She was starting to feel like a pawn carved from someone else's game set. Krell Wararch Surov loomed on the other side of the ring, surrounded by his second and ceremonial adjudicator. His exoskeleton gleamed with an iridescent oil sheen, and his weapons, a curved, blunt-ended staff and a hooked blade, rested in ceremonial sheaths. He removed the blade, placed it at Emma's feet. Symbolically, it was an offer. The right to kill returned to the challenged. Emma didn't pick it up. "I'll fight under Confluence regulations," she said. "Non-lethal. Honor won't demand blood today." Surov's second huffed. "You deny finality?" "I deny the need." The Warrock's laugh echoed through the garden. "Let it be said that the human chooses mercy. I accept." Leo stood just outside the energy curtains surrounding the arena, eyes fixed on the datapad clutched in his hand. While Emma fought, he'd keep monitoring the jewelry for signal shifts. One wrong move, and it could start broadcasting a location beacon again, or worse. "Emma?" he called softly. She looked back, and he tapped the pad. Two of the bone fragments are interacting with each other. It's like they were part of the same network node before being scavenged. Emma frowned. Could that explain the sequence anomaly earlier? Partially, but it's not just passive data. I think it's running a handshake protocol, some kind of reactivation script, meaning the bones weren't just transmitting, they were trying to connect to something. Surov raised his staff. "Begin." The ground thrummed beneath her. Artificial gravity pulses mimicked terrain irregularities, making her footing unpredictable. Surov advanced, movements fluid for his size. He swung the staff low, sweeping toward her knees. Emma sidestepped, barely, and the staff clipped her thigh, a bruise already. She didn't try to match his strength, she knew she couldn't, but instead used his momentum. When he pivoted for a follow-through, she lunged forward, catching his off arm and twisting. The joint gave slightly, Krell cartilage popping under pressure. He grunted, impressed. "You studied our form," he growled. "I study everything," she panted. Surov reversed the grip, flinging her across the arena. She landed hard, wind knocked from her lungs. Pain flared along her left side. No fracture, but definite strain. She didn't rise immediately, letting her breath return. From the corner of her eye, she saw Leo pacing, anxious. Surov waited. "You're hurt," she coughed. "That's the point, isn't it?" "Pain is truth," he said. "Pain is data," she corrected and rolled back to her feet. The next clash came fast. She ducked under his blade arc, slammed her shoulder into his side, and used a lever grip to destabilize his stance. It wasn't enough to drop him, but he stumbled, and the adjudicator barked a point in her favor. Then her necklace beeped. Loud, audible even in the arena. Leo's shout followed. "Emma, it just pinged a relay node, something out past Virella Station." Surov paused. "You fight while under surveillance?" "I didn't plant it," she snapped. "But I think it's found what it was looking for." The war arc looked at her, then the necklace, then her bruised face. "Then we finish quickly." He swung again, but this time with precision rather than brute force. Emma let the attack come, let it graze her forearm, and twisted inward. With her good leg, she swept his front foot from beneath him, driving her elbow into his clavicle with controlled force. He hit the ground hard, weapon flying from his grip. She didn't press her advantage. Instead, she stepped back. Surov groaned, but lifted a claw in acknowledgement. "Point to Earth," the adjudicator intoned. The Krell war arch stood, flexing his arm. "Your kind may not be strong, but you are sharp." Emma shook her head. Sharpness doesn't win wars, but it might stop one. Surov turned toward the gathered crowd, raising one arm. "Honor is satisfied. I recognize the human's right to speak." Applause or something like it came in ripples. Even the Kelvarat delegate looked vaguely impressed. Emma stepped out of the arena and immediately leaned on Leo. "I need a scan," she murmured. That hit to the side wasn't nothing. Leo helped her toward the med station. "You think it's cracked?" "Rib or two. Not displaced, just hurts." He nodded. "We'll run a localized scan. No time for full imaging right now." The portable scanner buzzed. 2 ribs, bruised and cracked, but not fractured through. No internal bleeding, but she'd be sore for days. She accepted a muscle relaxant patch and declined the stronger analgesics. Her head needed clarity. While she was seated, Leo finished decrypting the signal the bone network had pinged. "It's bad," he said quietly. Emma looked up. "They're not just signals, they're keys. Biolattice encryption keys. Someone used our own research programs, ones we buried years ago, to design these predators. They didn't evolve, they were grown. Each set keyed to specific geolocations. When you killed them and took the remains, you unknowingly collected the entire access tree." Emma's stomach turned. "Access to what?" "Telemetry archives, predatory behavior modifiers, even implant schematics. All buried inside restricted Terran files from the gene directive programs. Someone's repurposing them." She leaned back. "So, they used us, our old mistakes, and pinned them on us." A soft chime interrupted them. Another message. Not from the confluence this time. Leo frowned. "Encrypted burst. Origin looks like Virella's outer moons. That's where one of the survey teams disappeared." Emma stood slowly. "Open it." The hologram flickered. A human face appeared. Gaunt, haggard, but alive. "Emma, if this gets to you, this is Commander Troy Mendez. I survived. Bastion team is gone, but I escaped containment 2 weeks ago. I have proof Earth's not behind this. They've been experimenting on us, on the Predators too. It's not Earth. It's someone embedded in the Council." and the feed cut. Emma stared at the blank hollow, every nerve in her body screaming. Leo whispered, "We were right. It's not just predators. It's a frame job, which means if we present evidence, they'll try to stop us. They already are. That duel, a distraction. That necklace pinging, a trap." Emma stood. Her ribs ached, her leg was tight, but she looked steadier than before. Then we stopped playing their game. Leo raised an eyebrow. "You have a plan? I have something better. An angry war arc, a half-decrypted lattice, and the bones of every predator they threw at me." She picked up the three-eyed skull and held it gently, staring into the empty sockets. "I also have something to apologize for," and for once, she didn't know which part of that frightened her more. A low-frequency hum rolled through the Aldir spire as security protocols initiated another lockdown. This time, there was no announcement, just the cold flicker of energy fields sealing entry points, the air pressure subtly shifting as containment systems redirected flows. Someone inside the confluence didn't want Emma going public. She didn't plan to ask permission. In Earth's restricted chamber, Emma limped between datapads and biosensor modules. Her ribs still ached badly. The bone bruise had darkened and deepened, and the muscle relaxant patch barely dulled the sting when she twisted wrong. She'd been in combat before, more than once, but moving with cracked ribs wasn't about endurance. It was about calculated restraint. Leo sat hunched at the console, sweat beading at his temples. "Got a hit. The encryption signatures on your vertebrae pendant match a defunct Terran registry, Project Red Vault." Emma looked up. "That was decommissioned 15 years ago." Leo nodded grimly. "Officially. But someone inside the Gene Ethics Oversight Board didn't just archive the data. They sold it." "To who?" "Not a who," Leo said. "A what. The signal handshake you triggered in the arena linked to an off-grid relay station orbiting a dead moon in the Nalafet belt. Owned by a shell corp based in Mavros Prime under a galactic agency called Spectral Insight." Emma's eyes narrowed. "Spectral Insight? They went dark years ago." Leo turned the display. "Looks like they didn't die. They went underground. And guess what? Their last known operation coincided with the timeline of the first Predator resurgence. That's where the gene splicing started. Not Earth. Them." Emma stared at the evidence. "They wanted the Predators to appear Terran, our genetic markers, our growth modulation patterns. We were the scapegoat from the beginning." "And your bones," Leo said, glancing toward the display case, "were supposed to activate surveillance chains and relay behavioral data to their black sites. They didn't count on me surviving long enough to notice." Outside, something crackled. The air shimmered. The door vibrated. Leo stood. "Someone's bypassing the lockout." Emma grabbed a stun baton, forcing herself upright despite the pain. "Not council security? No ID beacon. Not ours either." The door hissed open. 3 figures entered, armored in reactive mesh. No insignia, no translators. Emma stepped forward. "You're not cleared for this zone. Identify yourselves." No reply. The one in the lead raised a weapon. Not lethal, but not peaceful either. Emma moved first. The stun baton struck the soldier's side, hard enough to drop him. Leo dove sideways as the second attacker lunged. They weren't assassins. They were retrieval agents, here to extract or erase. The fight wasn't elegant. Emma's ribs burned with each motion, her breath catching in short, pained gasps. She managed to elbow one in the throat, duck a swing, and disarm the third, but not before a flash beam scorched across her left forearm. The pain flared white-hot. "Emma!" Leo shouted, tossing her a second baton. She caught it awkwardly, gritted her teeth, and dropped the final attacker with a sweep to the back of the knees. They collapsed in a heap. Emma leaned against the wall, chest heaving. "Medical," Leo said, already scanning her arm. "You've got second-degree burns. That's blistering. I can treat the surface, but you'll need recovery time." "No time," she gasped. "Bandage it. Inject me with antibiotics." Localized numbing agent if you have it. Leo gave her a look. You're not going to heal walking around like this. I'm not trying to heal. I'm trying to finish this before anyone else gets killed. He didn't argue. Instead, he sprayed the burn with a coagulant mist and sealed it with a breathable patch. The pain dulled barely. But the damage was real. She wouldn't have full arm function for days, maybe a week depending on inflammation. Emma resecured the bone jewelry and winced as a cracked rib shifted. We're going to the summit floor. They locked us down to stop us from broadcasting, but they didn't shut down the translator ring. Leo blinked. You're going to present there? With all this chaos? Yes. And I'm not just going to talk. I'm going to show them exactly who's responsible. They stepped into the service corridors, bypassing main security lines. Emma walked hunched, conserving energy, every breath reminding her of her bruised insides. But adrenaline helped. So did outrage. At the summit chamber, the translator ring still shimmered in standby. Delegates bickered among themselves, rumors of sabotage and espionage already spreading. Emma stepped into the center, activating the projection node. The crowd froze. Earth's delegate has no speaking slot, barked the moderator. She does now, said Warash Surov, stepping into view behind her. She bled for her right. Emma activated the display. Holographic models rose, DNA sequences, predator attack patterns, orbital charts, video snippets from her missions. Then, the transmission from Troy Mendez. Murmurs broke into full vocalizations. Shock. Alarm. Emma spoke through it all. These predators weren't natural. They were revived with genetic scaffolds stolen from Earth programs and enhanced using forbidden algorithms, ones only accessible to galactic research groups. My trophies were meant to bait me into assembling the full encryption network. My survival was never the plan. She paused, glancing at her scorched arm and swelling side. I wore these bones thinking I honored the fallen, but now I know. Some were manipulated. One was intelligent. I was deceived. The room quieted. Then the Lumivox floated into view. She speaks the truth. The Council has known of these experiments, suppressed the data to preserve calm, but calm has cost us lives. Kelvirad Delegate Oros hissed. You implicate us all? The Lumivox pulsed. No, only those who buried warnings and let the predators hunt unchecked. Another hologram activated Leo's work, decrypted in real time. The genetic tags bore Spectral Insight's old classification codes. The rogue faction embedded within a defunct galactic agency, Leo said, stepping forward. They used Emma's missions to gather behavioral metrics, used the survey teams to test predator tracking efficiency. Where are the teams now? Asked a Yulari ambassador. Emma looked down. Alive, some of them. One escaped, the rest may be in containment, used to refine the program. The room erupted. Accusations flew. Demands for inquiry, for tribunal, for Emma to be removed, for her to be protected. Then the lights flickered. Every translation screen blinked red. System-wide alert. Biointegration vector detected. Emma's chest tightened. Leo spun to the control panel. It's the bones. The jewelry's receiving a forced update. They're trying to erase the lattice. Emma ripped the necklace off and threw it into the neutralizer core. Shut it down! Leo punched in commands. The neutralizer hissed, vaporizing the bone pendant. The signal cut. The alert stopped. Everyone stared. You were the transmitter, said the Zeltuin envoy. Emma nodded. Not by choice. But now the signal's gone, and we know where to trace it. A long silence. Then Surov stepped forward and placed his ceremonial weapon at her feet. You fought honorably, spoke truth, endured injury. You wear bones not in triumph but in witness. Earth is absolved. The Lumivox floated closer. And Earth shall have a seat on the investigative tribunal to dismantle the rogue networks and study what made these predators possible. Emma sagged, pain finally catching up to her. Leo caught her arm. We need to get you to medbay. You're running hot, Emma. She didn't argue. Her arm throbbed, ribs stabbing with every breath, and the swelling along her side had tightened her posture into a half hunch. If they scanned her now, it'd show deep muscle bruising and prolonged inflammation. A full recovery? At least 2 weeks, maybe longer if complications arose. Still, as she let him guide her toward the lift, she managed a whisper, "We've only just started. There's still one more thing I need to face." Leo looked over. "What?" She closed her eyes briefly. "That skull, the one I took from the scout. I need to find out its name." Recovery was not optional this time. The Confluence medbay was sterile, cold, and bathed in too much artificial blue, but Emma didn't resist when Leo wheeled her in. The scans confirmed what she already felt: bruised ribs, strained intercostal muscles, inflammation spreading across her left flank, and a mild fever from the plasma burn on her arm. No organ damage, but she was in no shape to move without consequence. "No walking without support," the attending medic said. "You'll need at least 2 weeks of rest, more if the inflammation doesn't respond to treatment." Emma nodded, grimacing as the IV line fed her a carefully balanced mix of antibiotics, anti-inflammatories, and pain management. She wouldn't fight it, not now, not after everything had cracked open. "Leo," she said once the medic left, "did we get a trace on Mendez?" Leo stood by the side of the bed, shoulders stiff. Yes. His signal bounced through 3 relay stations, all abandoned or deregistered. He's in a lab facility hidden under the crust of Rella's smallest moon. We wouldn't have known it existed if your necklace hadn't pinged the old vault. Emma closed her eyes. And the council? Split. Some want to deny involvement, others are calling for war crimes charges against Spectral Insight. The Ulari offered to deploy a joint task force to the site. Krell volunteered for ground insertion. She opened her eyes again. "I want to be there." Leo leaned down, quiet. "You can't, Emma. You can barely sit up. You need recovery, and the docs are right. You move too soon, and you risk a collapsed lung, or worse. You're grounded." She swallowed that. It burned going down. "Then go in my place." Leo gave a small nod. "Already volunteered. Mendez knew your name. You deserve closure, even if you can't get it in person." She exhaled slowly. "And the skull?" Leo hesitated, then pulled out a small sealed container from his satchel. Preserved. The lab techs ran analysis, high cortical complexity, extensive memory engrams, embedded in the frontal bone. Definitely a sapient species. Long-range scans picked up a matching genome among a collapsed habitat cluster 2 systems over. The species was thought extinct. Emma stared at the box. "I need to know its name." "We found it," Leo said. "Buried in an old diplomatic file. The species was called Ansari, pre-contact explorers. No record of hostility, but Spectral Insight tagged them as threat level unknown, probably because they couldn't translate the Ansari's transmission patterns. So they sent me to kill one." Leo shook his head. "You were ambushed, Emma. You responded. You didn't know. That doesn't make it right." "No, but it means you have a chance to make it matter." 3 days later, Emma sat in the tribunal hall, her sides stiff and bound in a supportive brace. Movement was still limited, but she could stand with help. Leo had returned that morning exhausted, scraped, and still brushing ash from his boots, but alive, and more importantly, successful. 27 humans, he said, standing beside her in the gallery. Alive. Some injured, but we got them out. Mendez is with medical now. He wants to talk to you when you're cleared. Emma nodded, her throat tight. The tribunal session opened with a review of Spectral Insight's internal logs recovered from the moon base. No denials remained. The agency had siphoned old Earth genetic data and used it to create proxy predators designed to simulate invasive evolution. The goal? Manufacture ecological fear to manipulate regional governance policies in the outer systems. They hadn't expected Emma to survive long enough to connect the dots. The council voted. Spectral Insight was declared a rogue entity. All members complicit in the Predator project were stripped of diplomatic immunity. Joint task forces would begin system-wide investigations into illegal bioengineering. Earth's name was cleared. When it was Emma's turn to speak, she rose carefully. The pain was manageable now, dulled by treatment and the rigid brace beneath her tunic. The tribunal chamber was silent. "I came here wearing bones," she began, voice slow but steady. "To some of you that was an offense, to others a statement. To me it was both and neither. I wore them because I believed they represented victories, evidence of survival. But I now understand at least one of those bones belonged not to a beast but to a sentient explorer." She placed the Ansari skull, now cleaned and respectfully mounted, onto the podium. "This is not a trophy. It is a mistake, mine and Earth's." No one interrupted. "I can't undo what happened, but I can ensure this individual has a name. Their species, Ansari, will be listed in our restored contact records, and this skull will be returned to what's left of their kind." The Lumivox pulsed nearby, soft and low. "And so your bones speak truth again." Warark Surov approached her after the session ended. His ceremonial blade was gone, now he wore a plain metal sash. "You carry wounds, visible and not. I earned them. Then you understand. There is no armor stronger than accountability." Emma met his gaze. "Would you believe me if I said I didn't wear those bones for pride?" He tilted his head. "I would. Now." The Ansari burial rites were reconstructed from a recovered data core, and the skull was placed within a synthesized lattice resembling their ancestral memory vault. Emma watched the interment from the observation deck, leaning against the railing with one arm. Her ribs had begun to knit, but she'd need another week of limited motion, and rehab after that. The arm burn was healing well, though the skin was tight and scarred. She didn't ask for cosmetic repair. Leo stood beside her, arms crossed. "You could have walked away from this whole thing," he said. She nodded. "I almost did. The night before the summit, I sat in my ship, wondering if the dress was too much, if the story I'd built for myself was the right one. You'll never make anything easy. It wasn't supposed to be easy. It was supposed to be honest." A soft tone chimed from his calm. "Mendes is cleared for visitors," Leo said, turning toward the lift. Emma remained for a moment longer, watching the Ansari vault slowly seal. One more name, she thought, and this time not forgotten. In the aftermath, the confluence established new regulations for ecological engagement. Every Terran survey team was paired with xenoethicists. The Lumivox proposed and passed a resolution to create a multi-species audit board for bioresearch oversight. Earth's seat at the council was no longer provisional, it was permanent. Emma declined a formal commendation. Instead, she requested a sabbatical. She spent the first month of it visiting planets where the predators had first resurfaced. Not to fight, just to look, to understand what she had missed. Then she helped draft the new council protocols. "Bones," she wrote in her memo, "are neither weapons nor symbols.